If your team needs a new quarterback, well, you're in luck because the 2024 draft class features many that are starting caliber players. In fact, this class may contain the deepest class of quarterbacks in recent memory, at least in terms of potential starters. In this video, I'm going to go over the first round of the draft and take a look at the teams that I feel have the best chance at drafting a quarterback and who I think that quarterback may be. Starting things off at the number one spot is obviously the Chicago Bears. They have the Carolina Panthers pick last year from the Bryce Young trade. And look, I think this one is pretty clear at this point. I fully expect the Bears to move on from Justin Fields. It's been 3 years and he hasn't shown that he can be the guy consistently. And with a whole new offensive staff coming in, I 100% expect them to draft Caleb Williams. I mean, if you watch the Super Bowl, how do you expect to beat Mahomes with anything less than the potential that Caleb Williams could possibly be? I'm not saying he can be on the level of Mahomes, but I'm saying he has the potential to be special. And even if he isn't this special project, this special player that people expect him to be, I mean, what's the worst that can happen? You at least took that chance. So, in my opinion, the reward far outweighs the risk of selecting Caleb Williams with the number one overall pick if you're the Chicago Bears. And at the number two spot in this year's draft is the Washington Commanders. Complete overhaul of the regime over there. New ownership. This is their second season in those seats. They fired Ron Rivera, fired the entire coaching staff, and they are starting fresh. They brought in Dan Quinn, who has done a fantastic job with the Cowboys defense over the last several years. So Dan Quinn is getting his second crack at being a head coach, and he is well aware that you need a quarterback to survive in this league, to win games in this league. And that's why I think that they're going to end up selecting Drake May, who is a consensus number two best quarterback in this draft. Some even have him at that number one spot over Williams. But, they have Sam Howell on their roster, and Sam Howell, started the majority of the season last year. And while he did show promise in some games, it just wasn't enough to prove that he could be the long term starter. But speaking on Sam Howell, I really do hope he gets another chance somewhere because I think with a fresh start and a fresh chance at developing, he could become a starting caliber player in the league. But with that being said, I fully expect the Washington Commanders to go all in on Drake May with that number two overall pick. And then at the number three overall spot, we have the New England Patriots, another team with not the prettiest of quarterback situations. Of course, Gerard Mayo is the new head coach for the Patriots. Definitely going to be a little weird next year to watch the Patriots without Bill Belichick on the sidelines. He has basically been their coach for the majority of my lifetime. But, their quarterback room right now consists of Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi. Mac Jones got benched last year, and Bailey Zappi ended up finishing out the year. Mac Jones had an impressive rookie season, led his team to the playoffs, but ever since then, it has just been downhill. Of course, that was not helped by having a defensive coordinator become an offensive coordinator for him in his second year, because we all know the second year for young quarterbacks are pivotal in their development. But again, Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi, I think at this point, it's safe to assume that neither one of these guys are the answer for the Patriots long term, and I fully expect Gerard Mayo to draft a quarterback. But who is where it gets interesting? You have guys like Jaden Daniels, JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr. I could see the Patriots going any direction here, but to play it safe, I'm going to say they select Jaden Daniels with the third overall pick. I think Gerard Mayo has even hinted in interviews that their pick is pretty much solidified to be a quarterback, and I expect that to be Jaden Daniels. And then the next team that I realistically see drafting a quarterback will have to skip down to the eighth spot, and that spot is the Atlanta Falcons. Of course, Desmond Ritter was their starter last year, with Taylor Heineke coming in when Ritter played bad and got benched. Again, not the greatest quarterback room. I don't think either one of these guys is the quarterback of the future for Atlanta. New Raheem Morris coming in, getting his second shot at being a head coach. He is going to want to look to solidify that quarterback position because, again, if you get the quarterback position right, that usually means job security. So, again, with the JT Daniels, Drake May, and Caleb Williams off the board, you have to start looking at the JJ McCarthy's of the world, Bo Nix's, the Michael Penix Jr., and they're bringing over Zach Robinson as their offensive coordinator. Comes from that LA Rams style of McVay Shanahan system, and any of these guys left on the board in terms of those three quarterbacks that I just listed would fit this scheme perfectly. They all have the skill set for it. So I would see the Atlanta Falcons actually drafting Michael Penix Jr. with this pick. if it came down to it. It just seems like a better fit stylistically for what they want to do. Huge arm, accurate with the deep ball, can, hit that back foot and let it rip. So again, number 8 pick, I see the Atlanta Falcons possibly taking Michael Penix Jr., but it also wouldn't surprise me if they went with McCarthy or Bo Nix or decided to completely avoid drafting a quarterback altogether. After the Atlanta Falcons at number 8, you would have to skip to number 11 to the Vikings for the next team who could realistically draft a quarterback. Cousins is a free agent and he is expected to test the market this year. That being said, it would not surprise me to see him back in Minnesota. He's played really well there and was playing really, really well last year before he tore his Achilles. But just in case he isn't back in Minnesota, I could see the Vikings drafting a guy like JJ McCarthy. If you watch him in college, he was really, really good off of play action, super accurate, nice velocity, nice touch on the ball. And, play action is what the Kevin McConnell system, thrives in. It's similar to that of the Shanahan, of the McVay system. So if Kirk Cousins is not back with the Minnesota Vikings, I could totally see them drafting a quarterback at this spot, a guy like JJ McCarthy. And then the team that picks right after them, the Denver Broncos. Now, obviously, the Denver Broncos have had Russell Wilson as their quarterback for the past couple seasons. Year one under Nathaniel Hackett was horrific. Russ was bad. Hackett was bad. So you can't blame him too much. Year two, we've seen Russ kind of, make a little bit of a comeback, started to look more himself under Sean Payton. But I think it's clear at this point that Sean Payton and Russell Wilson just don't mesh well together as far as personalities go. On the football field, it's fine. But if you can't really get together and, mesh off the field, then it's just not going to work out long term. So again, Denver Broncos, you got Bo Nix there, you got JJ McCarthy there. I think either one would fit Sean Payton's system well. Sean Payton runs a variant of the West Coast offense. He wants a quarterback who is going to hit a 3-step drop, hit a 5-step drop, and as soon as that back foot hits, as soon as that back foot plants in the ground, he wants the ball out of his quarterback's hands. And that is something that JJ McCarthy or Bo Nix could do really, really well. And they also have the ability to extend the play just enough to play out of structure to make some plays when the core concept of the play may break down. So I could totally see the Denver Broncos drafting either Bo Nix or JJ McCarthy at the number 12 overall pick. And then at the number 13 overall pick, you have the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, last year, they signed Jimmy G, of course, but as soon as Josh McDaniels was fired, Antonio Pierce was like, you know what? We're going to ride with Aiden O'Connell the rest of the way. And he showed flashes, but I just don't think he showed enough to prove that he could possibly be the long-term answer for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, I don't exactly know what options will be left on the board when it gets to pick 13 in terms of quarterbacks, which is insane to say. But if there are, one of those 4 or 5 guys left, the Raiders would absolutely consider drafting a quarterback there. Again, this is Antonio Pierce's first year as the full-time permanent head coach, so he is looking to solidify that position ASAP as soon as possible. And then at number 20, you have the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are also in an interesting position. They drafted Kenny Pickett in the first round a couple years ago. He showed flashes his first year, but after that, his second year last year wasn't as great. Now, they did have Matt Canada as their offensive coordinator, and I don't know a single quarterback in the league who would look good under Matt Canada. Matt Canada could look Tom Brady, look like a bum. So it's hard to really put all the blame on Pickett, but I do fully expect them to move on from Pickett and sign Justin Fields. As of right now, Justin Fields is the odds-on favorite to be the Pittsburgh Steelers' next quarterback. I know Mike Tomlin really likes him a lot, so that's the direction I expect the Pittsburgh Steelers to go in terms of their quarterback position. And really looking at the first round, that is all the teams that I could really give a realistic chance of drafting a quarterback in the first round at least. There are a couple other teams that are kind of intriguing. You got the Giants at number 6 overall, but they just signed Daniel Jones to a pretty decent sized contract. But you have to look at it, if the Patriots or the Commanders were to opt to draft, a Marvin Harrison Jr. instead of one of the quarterbacks, then that could cause a situation where, one of those quarterbacks could drop down to the Giants. Do they decide to draft him and, maybe sit him behind Daniel Jones? I don't know. I could see a situation like that playing out. Another team, maybe the Seahawks at number 16. Geno Smith has obviously played well for them, but do they really see Geno as a long-term answer? He is getting up there in age. So I'm not sure on that front. And then at number 19 overall, you have the Rams. Now, Matthew Stafford looked really good last year, but again, he's another guy who is getting up there in age, has dealt with some injuries, has missed a lot of games over the past 2 years. So they are another team that might want to think about addressing the future at the quarterback position. If they'll do it in this draft, I don't know. They need to think about it soon. But that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoy this type of content, consider subscribing. Appreciate you guys watching.